Hello, everyone. This is Charles Brewer, President of the Civil War Study Group. Welcome to the recording of our program on October 22nd, 2021.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Charles Brewer, current president of this august group. Thank you for coming today. Before I introduce our speaker, there are a few items I'd like to call to your attention. Next month's meeting will be on November 19th, and it will be via Zoom. Our speaker will be historian John Reeves, whose recently published book presents the Battle of the Wilderness from the perspectives of a few of the participants. And we will post specifics in about 2 weeks, not only on the website, but also via email. Now that in-person meetings are resuming, people's sensitivities to joining in public gatherings in this still uncertain time must be respected. I'm sure most of us know or know of someone seriously affected by COVID. And since there might be new strains coming along, you just never know whether being unmasked will end up injuring someone else. That's why, although fully vaccinated myself, and with negative PCR results in the last month, I try to wear a mask when optimal distancing is not possible. I strongly recommend others to adopt this approach going forward until such time as generally accepted medical science updates suggest a relaxation in those protocols. So that being said, let's get to the meat of today's meeting. Our speaker today is Jane Conner. She is a Stafford County historian with a degree in early childhood education from the University of California.
At Santa Barbara.
At Santa Barbara, yes. And I didn't ask her here because of her expertise in early childhood education, although some of us are going back. But in any event, she taught in California, South Carolina, and the last 3 decades of her teaching career were in Stafford County. As a result of her advocacy, Stafford County in 1998 bought Government Island in the Rappahannock River, turning it into a county park. This island's history as the source of most of the stone used in building the White House and the U.S. Capitol is the subject of her book, Birthstone of the White House and the Capitol. Her other books are Lincoln in Stafford and Saints, Sinners, and Soldiers in Civil War Stafford. One of the people profiled in this book is the subject of her talk today. Like at least one attendee today, she too is a veteran of an historical preservation fight against Walmart. In her case, saving George Washington's boyhood home from the clutches of commerce. Now, please give Jane your undivided attention, and I'll turn on this is a
Since I was a teacher for so many years, can you hear me without this on?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, as Charles said, I'm going to be talking about one of the 6 people up here. And over here is Clara Barton. And she was recognized for her charity, her compassion, and they all called her just a wonderful, wonderful person in helping the wounded. And over here is Dr. Mary Walker. She didn't have those wonderful adjectives. Instead, they called her a freak, a sideshow curiosity. So she didn't have that same reputation. This is a picture of Dr. Mary Walker. And her full name was Mary Edwards Walker. She came from a very, I guess you would say, a unique family. There were 5 girls and 1 boy, And they named their children. Mary was a normal name, but like one child was named Luna, another one was Aurora Borealis, and they felt very, very strongly about garments. They should be loose-fitting garments so that your blood can flow. And you can see over there that the popular style was to wear corsets and bustiers. But, oh no, the family did not think that that was a good thing to do. They had on their farm, close to the front of the farm, there was a common school. And so all 6 children went to the school that was on their property. And they truly believed in education, not only of the son, but also of all of their daughters. And so, just like her sister, she went in to become a teacher at an early age. She did have higher education. She was at the Syracuse Medical School when she was 21. She graduated with honors, and she received her medical degree, and making her a physician. And she was the second woman in all of the United States to become a certified doctor or physician. When she was at medical school, she met Mr. Miller, and they got married. Well, it was a strange outfit that she wore. She had bloomers with elastic sort of around the ankles, gathered, and then over it she wore a dress coat. Now, she decided that she didn't want to use the word obey at all in her own. So she had that taken out. And the marriage she didn't put the name Miller at the end of her name. Instead, it was Mary Edwards Miller Walker. That marriage didn't last long. And so she moved to Rome, New York, and above a haberdashery in Rome, New York, she set up practice there. And then when the Civil War came about, she went where the action was, up to Washington, D.C., to help those wounded soldiers. And you can see there, this is what the U.S. Patent Office looked like at the time. But, oh, shoot, I'm sorry. But you could see here, she stayed in sort of a cubicle away from the soldiers of Indiana, but she helped them. She nursed them back to health. And also, she ate the same food that they ate. She used the same linens, on her air cubicle. Nothing was different from the wounded soldiers. Then she moved to Forest Hall Military Prison, and that was in Georgetown. Now, you can see here is one of her outfits. She wanted to be commissioned as a Yankee officer. She really felt that she should have that commission. And she had the doctor that was at the patent office write a letter because she really helped him so much. But it was rejected. She tried again, and it was rejected. So she came up with this outfit that she wore, and you can see it here. It had pants, but I don't know if
The center green button.
But on the side, she had gold braid, and then around the waist, she also had gold braid. And she put, made it look very military, she thought. And, she also wore a felt hat with a gold braid around it too. And she decided to go to Hygienia Therapeutic College in New York City because they really stress natural cures and good hygiene. And this is something that she was brought up thinking too, with her family. So she went to Washington, D.C., and she nursed the men there. She went to Warrenton, Virginia, and she followed General Burnside at the Army of the Potomac. And they traveled to Stafford County, to Chatham, or the Lacey House. And I hope all of you, it's opened up, it was closed during the COVID. I hope all of you go there. It's run by the National Park Service, it's free of charge, and you're going to have to look online to see the days that it's open. It used to be open, 24/7, not 24/7, 7 days a week, but it was open then. You can see what it looks like now, and this is what it looked like during the Civil War. On her outfit too, I forgot to mention this. On her outfit, she had a green sash, which indicated that she was a physician. And she wore it, even though it wasn't given to her. She wore it too. Now, the New York Times Tribune had an article, and it referred to Dr. Walker, and it describes her apparel slightly different than that in Warrenton. I described you what she was wearing in Warrenton, and she was working with the Sanitary Commission. So listen to this article, it really describes her. Among the unmarshaled host of camp followers of the old army, not the least noteworthy personage is Miss Mary E. Walker, or Dr. Walker, as she is generally styled. She is a native of New York, has received a regular medical education, and believes her sex ought not to disqualify her for the performance of deeds of mercy to the suffering heroes of the Republic. Dressed in male costume, with the exception of a girlish-looking straw hat decked off with an ostrich feather, with a petite figure, and she was only 5 foot tall, so she was quite short. With a petite figure and feminine features, the tout ensemble is quite engaging, a jaunty air of dignity, well calculated to receive the sincere respect of soldiers. She can amputate a limb with the skill of an old surgeon and administer medicine equally as well. Strange to say that, although she had frequently applied for a permanent position in the medical corps, she has never been formally assigned to any particular duty. She is at present temporarily attached to the Sanitation Commission, whose headquarters are in the Lacey House opposite Fredericksburg. We will add that the lady referred to is exceedingly popular among the soldiers in the hospitals and is undoubtedly doing much good. So that sort of puts another picture on what she looked like. Now, I want you to see this picture. I hope that you sitting there can see it. This is a picture of Aquia Landing. And Aquia Landing today is in Stafford County. It's a free beach that you can go to, but that's all it is. It's just a beach. But this is how busy it was. I love this photograph because you can see in here that there are masted ships, there's side wheelers, there's steamships, and this is Aquia Creek, and it goes up the Potomac River and to DC. So it came the other way, food for the soldiers. And then there were thousands of Union soldiers in Stafford County. So they not only had to have food, which came from DC, but they also had to have uniforms too. And so they came down. Then they had horses, they had mules, they all had to be fed. So there were daily runs from DC coming to Aquia Landing. And you can see here there's 3-story, and that's a 2-story buildings. And these were all warehouses for all this food for humans as well as animals. Now, over here, you can barely make it out, but there's a train. And that train went from Aquia Landing into the interior of Stafford County. And today, if you're ever in Stafford County, there's Brook Road, and Brook Road was the railroad bed. Now, Washington, D.C. at that time, they were putting on the Capitol Dome. But a lot of people thought that Lincoln should not put on that Capitol Dome. Instead, the money should go to help the troops. But he insisted. He said that he wanted this country to be united, and putting on the dome would show that. Now, while Dr. Mary Walker was at the Lacey House or Chatham, she saw a wounded young soldier, and it just tore her heart out because he had a hole in his skull, and you could see the brain after it. And she'd get on the floor and talk with these soldiers. I mean, Chatham was just full of wounded soldiers, and when she wasn't operating in one room, she was maybe on the floor talking with others. And this one soldier just meant so much to her. And when she got up to D.C., there were lots of mothers looking for their sons. And so she happened to be the mother of that boy that had that missing piece in his skull. And she told him that, that she had lost her son, that he had passed away. And then she saw other mothers that were looking to, was there any word about my son? Is it he in any of the buildings that have wounded soldiers? So she decided on her own, across from Ford's Theater in D.C., she had them rent, the mayor gave them rent-free a building, and then she got bed linens and towels and everything to outfit this building. And so mothers that were there looking for their sons could go in and spend a night there. Then she met with, this is General Daniel Rucker, and he worked with Clara Barton. And he also worked with Dr. Barry Walker, and he had a carriage with horses, or a flatbed vehicle with horses that would take these mothers to the various sites in D.C. that had wounded soldiers so that they could find their sons. Then, in 1863, she went to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and she worked with the 52nd Ohio Infantry, and Major General Alexander McCook gave her another recommendation saying that she should be commissioned. But oh no, it fell on deaf ears. But she found out that there were people that were really suffering in Tennessee and in Georgia. And when she was in Georgia working with civilians, trying to give them food, she was captured by the Confederacy. So anyway, it was funny because she went on a train and it was telegraphed ahead that she was coming. This woman dressed like a man, sort of, was coming along. And so this Confederate Captain Joseph Semmes wrote, "We were all amused and disgusted at the sight of a thing that nothing but the debased and depraved Yankee nation could produce. She was not good looking, and of course had a tongue enough for a regiment of men." When she was captured in Georgia, she was put into prison, and this was called Castle Thunder. And so she was afraid that her parents would worry about her. So she wrote this to her parents. "I hope you are not grieving about me. I am living in a 3-story brick castle with plenty to eat and a clean bed to sleep in. The officers are generally in kind, and it will not be long before I am exchanged." But this was far from the reality, because her bed was a straw bed and it was infected with fleas and bed bugs. And at night, rats roamed around her room. Her food consisted of maggot-filled rice and moldy bread. And so she complained to authorities there. And Mary finally got the Confederates to add wheat bread and cabbage to their daily rations. Despite these changes, when Mary went into prison there, she weighed 105 pounds. When she left there, she only weighed 60 pounds.
Oh.
And she was so delighted by the fact that she was exchanged for a Confederate 6-foot-tall officer. So, anyway, this was the interior of that Castle Thunder in Richmond, where she was in prison. Now, in 1865, in November, President Johnson, Major General Sherman, and Major General Thomas wished to recognize her for all of her service to the country. She was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor for meritorious service, being the first woman to ever receive this award. So she felt like she finally obtained the honor that she wanted to receive. So she was very pleased. And she wore that medal, whether she went out of her house or not. She wore it day and night, forever. And you can see here, here's a drawing of her wearing the medal. Now this is interesting. Matthew Brady had studios up in Washington, D.C. And you can see there is Dr. Mary Walker with her medal on, and she's sitting at a round table with that cloth and with a skirt on it. Here is the picture of Clara Barton, and you can see that the same cloth, the same table, and so you can see both of these women who contributed so much to the Civil War. Now, if you've ever been to Falmouth Beach in Stafford County, right on the Rappahannock River, Oh, and by the way, Government Island is in Potomac River.
My apologies.
Quiet, yeah. But anyway, across from Falmouth Beach is this red brick home. And this is a picture of Monsieur Daniel Conway. His father owned 42 slaves. And his mother was really against slavery. And so, excuse me, now I have to say enslaved people. So, the father owned 52 enslaved people. And the mother wanted the slaves to learn how to read the Bible. So in the basement of the house, she taught the slaves, enslaved people, how to read the Bible in there. So he decided that he wanted to have his father's slaves escape out of the Confederate area. So he took them up to Washington, D.C. He was taking them to Yellow Springs, Ohio. And it so happened that once he left D.C., he told the slaves, pretend like I'm your master. And because they had to go into Maryland, which was Confederately controlled. So he said, just pretend like I'm your master. So he got them there, and he got them to Yellow Springs, Ohio. And he set up a colony for them. He gave them money. Then he went to Europe. And every so often, he would send them money to keep the colony going so that they could have food. So anyway, he was in France on July 4th, 1867. And there was ceremonies there for the July 4th for Americans that were there, and other French people were there. And on the left, you can see that's what the Grand Hotel of Paris looked like at the time he was there, and the Grand Hotel is still there today, and that's what it looks like on the right-hand side. So, after they had the food there for the July 4th celebration, Monsieur Conway wrote this about Dr. Mary Walker. Most of us were feeling the dinner dull when suddenly Dr. Mary Walker created a sensation. Over her famous American dress, which was masculine, he put in parentheses, she wore a large sash of stars and stripes. In this costume, she walked up to the head of the table before the company, and before the amazed Milliken, he was the master of ceremonies, could interfere, she uttered a tribute to, quote, our soldiers and our sailors. Dramatically, she kissed the flag she wore, and she glided back to her seat. Dr. Mary Walker did not wait for dancing that followed, and when she left, she received an ovation from the French crowd in the courtyard on account of the glorious independence of her trousers, no wise concealed but decorated by her patriotic sash. The applause must have been for Dr. Mary Walker's independence, because an uglier dress was never worn.
No pictures of that.
No, I wish there were. But the way he described it, you can sort of picture it in your mind. Now, she wasn't receiving any money. She wanted to receive money because she thought that she had really helped the federal effort, and she requested money, but she didn't get any. So she went on talking tours. But this cost her money just to get to places to talk and all, and she did get some money for her speeches. But people weren't interested in the Civil War anymore because the Civil War ended, and she wrote this because she said, even though the Civil Wars ended, she knew a fitting punishment for ex-Confederate President Jefferson Davis, and this is what she wrote. Treat him like a woman. He should be forced to wear long hoop skirts and a tight corset, and do housework in a 4-story house. This would be a worse punishment than any prison term. So, anyway, so she started taking up the cause of Susan B. Anthony, Lucy Stone, and Belva Lockwood to talk about. And so her speaking tours, as I said, were costly, but so she wrote 2 books. She petitioned Congress 25 times for financial relief. She thought, heck, I operated on these people. I ought to be paid something because the widows were paid something. I should be paid something. But she didn't get it. Finally, in 1875, she was given a disability pension of $8.50 a month. Now, here's sort of a picture of what she must have looked like in France, I'm thinking. Audiences dwindled when she talked about the Civil War, so as I said before, she gave talks on women's suffrage. In 1881, Mary ran unsuccessfully for Senate. Women weren't even given the right to vote, but yet she ran for Senate. And she needed funds, and she worked for a vaudeville-type entertainment group. And she was 66 years old when she finally received $20 a month. Now, in 1917, Congress revoked her Medal of Honor. And this was just crushing to her to think that that medal was revoked. But, I'm trying to find here what it was. Okay, so that medal was revoked along with 910 men whose medal was revoked that received them because they said in order to receive that Medal of Honor, you had to be in actual combat. So there were 910 men whose medals were revoked too. This just irritated her so much because this was part of her. And so she owned 2 medals. The original one in 1865 and another in 1907. So, anyway, she decided that she was going to go to the Capitol, the U.S. Capitol, and she was going to fight for her medal to be returned. She went up the steps, she fell on the steps, she really injured herself. And so she was taken back to her farm, and a neighbor took care of her because she couldn't afford for any other help. And so anyway, a neighbor, I have it up here. A neighbor said that this is what she told her. Presidents and cabinet ministers and great generals are glad to meet me and listen to me. But now I am alone with the infirmities of age fast weighing me down and practically penniless, and no one wants to bother with me. 2 years later, after falling on the steps of the U.S. Capitol, she passed away. When she died, she was 87 years of age. And a year later, the 19th Amendment, the Constitution was passed, giving women the right to vote. She was buried in her hometown of Oswego, New York. And so, this is what she said. is this a repeat of what I put on there before or not? I
Yep.
don't know if it is. This is what she told her neighbor. I have got to die before people will know who I am and what I have done. It is a shame that people who lead reforms in this world are not appreciated until after they are dead. Then the world pays its tributes. And the world certainly did pay its tributes to Dr. Barry Walker. Here is a picture of her grave site in Oswego, New York. And at the town hall in Oswego, New York, there's this statue of her, and she has her arm up there by her medal. Now, this is what has happened. In World War II, there was a Liberty ship called the SS Barry Walker. It was launched in. During the Carter administration in 1977, her Medal of Honor was restored, and places named in her honor: the U.S. Army Reserve Center in Walker, Michigan, the medical facilities in Oswego, New York, and Mary Walker House in Coatesville, Pennsylvania, which services veterans in need. And then in 1982, a U.S. postage stamp was in her honor. So she was certainly recognized afterwards. So are there any questions? Yes.
I have a question about the follow-up for when she was in prison. She was in prison, she was exchanged. What did she do after she was exchanged? Was the war over by then?
She went and did nursing on her own or back in New York. Yes. She, anywhere that she could find that she was needed, she did surgery and, she just took care of anyone that needed her help. More questions? Yes.
So her medal was revoked
Oh,
because
yes.
she wasn't in conflict.
Well, it was revoked, she was running up the steps to the US Capitol.
Yeah.
And she wanted it revoked. She had a niece, because she died not knowing that it was going to be, that Jimmy Carter was going to reinstate him. But she had a niece that went before Congress, and the niece actually got the medal, and she had it on, it's now on display at the Pentagon. There's a hallway in the Pentagon about women, and it's on display there. Yeah, but the niece did that. These are good questions, yes.
Is there any obligation for a person who has a Medal of Honor and it is revoked to give that back? Or can you keep it? I mean, who's going to come take it
Yeah,
back?
she didn't want it. I think she would have clutched it forever and fought back,
Yeah, I'm
yes.
not familiar with
I don't know if
military.
there's
I think you are supposed to physically return it.
Yeah.
You have to.
Well, some don't.
Any other questions? Yes,
How did she end up with two medals?
I really don't know, but she did. Yeah. I'm gonna have to read my book again. But I don't think, I just know that she had two.
Maybe she thought she'd lost it and asked for another one. And
Yeah, I'm gonna have to read it again. Yes,
So is she the only woman throughout history to have gotten
Yes.
the medal?
yes. Only one to receive it,
Is
yes.
that true that you only get it if you were in conflict?
Well, before that,
Yeah.
anyone could get it that helped.
I mean, present
But
day.
present day, I don't know. Any service people around here that would know?
It's coming.
Is Palmer related now? Oh. Well, you were a wonderful audience. I have my book over there, for all of my books, I don't get any money myself. I give every penny to the Stafford County Historical Society because we don't have a museum yet. But we have so much history in Stafford. Captain John Smith, Pocahontas, George Washington, Lincoln was there 7 times for a total of 14 days. The list goes on, the amount of history that we have there, and yet we don't have a museum. So every penny goes to the museum. So I have my Center Saints and Soldiers book there. I have Lincoln and Stafford book, and those are both $10 for you guys today. And then $15 is the book about, it's called Birthstone of the White House and Capitol, the Aquia stone that was carved and carried up, blocks were carried up the Aquia Creek, up the Potomac River to make the White House and Capitol. So I have those 3 books there if you'd be interested. But every penny for all the books goes to our museum. So thank you for being a wonderful audience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. I appreciate it. And your teacher voice was right. Well, thank you very much for coming again. And once again, Jane's books are over there. And then also you see that we have 3 of our 5 current containers of books. Greg didn't have enough energy to carry all 5 of them. But anyway, just kidding. But they are there for purposes of taking. It's not a lending library anymore. It's a take library. So, and if you take a book that's part of a series and the rest of the books in the series are there, take them all. Okay, so thank you very much and appreciate your coming, and we'll see you on Zoom on November 19th, okay?
Thank you very much for watching this video through the end. We encourage you to visit on a frequent basis our website, civilwarstudygroup.org. Have a good day.